Okay, test my left-hand coordination skills, holding this at an angle. So one of the things that we keep hearing about lately is just something that's always true with retirement planning. A lot of questions, basically around how do I create income in retirement for life? Like, how does it really work? Most people, you work and you fund your 401k and you do some IRA stuff, and you know that someday there will be money to pay the bills. But then as you get closer to your retirement date, most people want to understand, so how does this really work? And so we just thought we'd give a quick highlight of three strategies, not the only three strategies, but three common strategies that people use to create retirement income. So the first is, you may have heard of it, it's called the 4% rule. So what does that mean? Basically, if you had $1,000,000, you could take out $40,000 of that the first year, and then increase that with inflation. This comes from the Trinity study out of Trinity University that found that withdrawal rate worked for 30-year periods with a pretty high degree of confidence. But there's a lot more to it than that.
Yep. So kind of on that front as well, is that may work for you, it may not. It all just going to depend on how much dollars you got. And that's why you need a really good financial plan. The pros of it, of doing that, is it's really simple. It's really simple to execute. You go, well, I've got $1,000,000, I can take 40 grand. I got $2,000,000, I can take 80 grand, so forth and so on. But it's not always that simple. So that's a huge pro. I think the con is, if you're doing it on your own and executing it yourself, there's just a couple of risks that could be out there, of sequence return risk being one of the biggest ones. So just something to think about. Not saying it's best for you at all, that you should use that study, but it is something to use as a good rule of thumb.
All right, second strategy that we see people use a lot and that we think there's a place for it sometimes is the bucket strategy. So if you want to think about it as, let's say you had three buckets, and there's lots of ways you could do this, but let's say you had, when you retire, 2 years worth of living expenses saved in your cash bucket. That'd be bucket number one. And then maybe, let's say, 3 to 5 years worth of living expenses saved in the second bucket. Maybe that's holding some short to medium term bonds. And then you had a third bucket where the goal of that is to fund years 6 through the rest of your life. And that's perhaps, more stocks and more aggressive mix of things. Then you can divide again, with the $1,000,000 example, you could divide that up into those three buckets, and the size is kind of determined on your spending rate. And so you have kind of three different investment objectives, but they're all working together in that way.
Yeah, and so I think that's where it's like, again, it's been a really highly researched study here recently, and I would say that there's some really good pros to that. It's great for peace of mind. Honestly, it's allows people to rest at night because they can see the cash that they know that they're going to need. But what that can also do is it can also lead to a optimal allocation of your resources, where you end up with a little too much cash or whatever it might be. Again, not telling you that you should do this at all, just kind of trying to educate you on some options that are out there for creating income.
All right, and then the last one that's pretty common, the first two strategies have a lot to do with, buying stocks and bonds and holding kind of publicly traded investment options. The last is if you used your mythical $1,000,000 again and you went and bought an annuity with either all of it or part of it. So what is an annuity? It's probably heard of it. It's a product where you get a stream of income starting now or in the future in exchange for that purchase. So you give an insurance company or a financial services company $1,000,000, and then in exchange, they give you, who knows, it depends on the payout ratio. There's all sorts of math, but it could be $3,000 a month. It could be $5,000 a month, something like that. Most of the time, it's going to be flat. The amount won't go up, but there are inflation riders you can purchase. And that's there's thousands of these different products available.
Yeah, so overall, when we're talking about annuities, the way that I think about annuities is there's people that love them, there's people that hate them. And the way that I think to best understand annuities are, they're a pretty complicated product at times. that are missold a lot of times. That's why they've gotten a bad rap. Why they've gotten a really good rap is because, man, they can really solve an income problem for life. Again, annuities to me are something that is really missold, and so I really can get really frustrated and passionate about how annuities are sold because I think people get ripped off on them. But they can really, really help your portfolio for the long term. It's just, again, you really need a good financial plan, and they need to fit with the plan. And you always plan first and then get the strategies to solve the problems for the plan, and not the other way around. And so that's how I would approach these problems for income, is find someone that really knows what they're doing and sit down with them, let them get to know you, and then y'all can solve the problems together. Robert, would you like to add anything?
Nope, that's it.
Have a great day, guys.